Hello and welcome to another Unity 5 tutorial. This is the first session in my tools series. The thought behind this is to single out tools that can be used for different use cases. So if I come up with more tools like the one we're going to create today, I'll add this right here and give a reference in any other tutorial where I might use this tool. If you have any other suggestions for tools or questions, feel free to post comments and I'll see to it. The tool we're going to create today is called Waypoints. In this session we will just start creating this tool, which helps us to generate a path through waypoints and makes it visible in our scene view. An example use case for this would be NPC movement, so we could tell an NPC move from waypoint 1 in a straight line to waypoint 2. So let's get right into it. The first thing I'm going to do is create a 3D object plane, scale it up on 100 and 100 just to have a bit of a background, and I'm going to create a 3D object cube. This one you need to select it in the hierarchy, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, press twice. And just move cubes around a bit. Doesn't really matter where, just spread them out. So yeah, that is all right. And now we need to put a bit of order in our project. What I want to do is set it up in a way so we can at the end just export it as a package. So I'm going to create this folder Waypoints, and in this folder I'm gonna create another folder, duplicate it twice, Ctrl D on Windows, and I'm gonna name this one scripts, and I'm gonna name this one prefabs. So this is gonna be a bit of an overkill, but I think it's just gonna illustrate how you can keep a package in order. So prefabs and scripts are arbitrary names that just follow the Unity programming convention, I guess. Like everybody's using it, and it makes sense. Editor on the other side is actually indicating to Unity SDK that any script inside this folder is an editor script, and we're gonna use it later, so you'll see what it means. But let's first start in our scripts folder and create a new C# script. Feel free to tag along in JavaScript if you like. So I'm gonna call this Waypoints script. So, and I'm gonna open it up in MonoDevelop. So the first thing we do is delete start and update. We don't need it in this session. We need to keep mono behavior, and I want to store references to those 3 cubes. So we could use an array, but an array is a bit static since you cannot just freely add or remove objects from it. So we're actually going to use a list. In order to do so, we need another namespace. So I'm gonna add system collections generic, and now we can add a public variable, public list. I'm gonna make it a list of game objects. Gonna call it waypoints, and we initialize it right away as a new list of game objects. Now if you save that, Ctrl S, go back to Unity and now take this script onto our first cube, then you can see here this list waypoints. So what I do now is just lock this one. It only means that if I select another you need to press this little lock on top. If I select any other game object in our hierarchy, this inspector is still the one of this game object when I locked it. And now we can select those 3 game objects, pull them onto, drag and drop onto waypoints, let go, and it automatically puts them in there. So now I unlock it again. So now we have reference to each of those cubes. The next step would be to draw a path. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use gizmos, and gizmos are, there to visualize things in the scene view. So the way we do this is we use a Unity monobehavior function, which is called onDrawGizmos. And in order to be safe, the first thing we need to do for now is if waypoints count is bigger, I put in 1 for now. Then we do our drawing. So let's just title that with connectors. Okay, so what's happening now is I want to draw a line, a straight line between cube 1 and cube 2. And in order to do so, I have to have 2 cubes. I cannot draw a line between 0 cube. I cannot draw a line between 1 cube in itself. I just need 2. That's why the if statement. So if we have more than 1, which we do right now, we need the position of our first cube. So we need a vector 3 for that. Vector waypoint 1 equals, this would be the first in our waypoints list, transform position, and we need a reference, or we need the position of our second waypoint as well. This will be 1 for now. So in order to get the direction between those 2 vectors, we create another one. I call it WP connector. So this will be waypoint 2 minus waypoint 1. This gives us the vector between those 2. Let's call this calculate connector. The next thing we want to do is draw our connector. So as I said, we're going to use gizmos. The first thing we do is set a color for our gizmo. This is going to be blue for now. And the next thing we do is we draw a ray. That's just one option how we can do this. The ray, sorry, let's try that again. The ray takes 2 values. If you go down here, we have a from value and we have a direction. So from would be our first waypoint, and the direction would be our connecting vector. So if we save that, Ctrl S, and move back to Unity, we see a blue line between our first 2 cubes. That's already a good start. So if we had an NPC walking from cube 1 to 2, this would be the path he would take if we just let him walk a straight line. Now we want to incorporate the third cube as well, and want to have a generic so we can just add things. So I'm gonna put this in a for loop. Now lists take the function count to get the length of the list in comparison to length of an array in C#. This one is not enough though, since we always we start with 1 and then we get a reference to the next one. So if we iterate through and we get to the last one, there would be no next one. This is why we need to say waypoints count -1. There we go. Close this one. And now we can say the first one is the one from our iteration variable, and waypoint 2 is the next one. Now what this does is it draws another blue line, but to show how it works, if we duplicate this cube once more and just move it around, go back to cube that holds the script and pull this one on waypoints, it automatically adds the connector. So now all the game objects inside this list will get a connection. The next thing I want to do is to add a marker to our waypoint, just something that indicates here I'm a waypoint, look at me. So this will be a straight line. So we take this position and go straight up on the y-axis. We could try to fill that inside here, but yeah, that would be not clean. And I actually want to get outside of this statement. So here we can have another statement saying if we have more than 0, sorry. Because if we have one waypoint, we want to see already the marker saying here I'm a waypoint. And we need another for loop. And this time we can, since each waypoint needs a marker, we're gonna just iterate through all of them. So and it's fairly similar. We get the waypoint again that we're iterating through to take the position, and now on top of this position we want to draw gizmo line. So if we look at draw line, I could take array. I just want to show different options here. So if you take a line, it's similar than before. We have a from and a to value. So let's first create vector3 for the to value, marker, and let's just rename this to marker start to have it more readable. So this would be marker start plus a new vector. So I said I'm gonna move the line along the y-axis, so x will stay 0. I'm gonna take 3.0 for now in the y-axis, and c can stay 0. So now it's gonna take our the position of the waypoint, and it's gonna add 3 on the y-axis. So now for the gizmo, I'm gonna give it a color again. Color that .cyan for now. And as I said, we're gonna draw a line. And this will be marker start to marker end. So let's just quickly move this together, and this will be draw marker. And there they are. Very pretty, beautiful, shiny, laser sword-like looking markers that stick out of our cubes. So it's getting quite artsy here. That is still not enough for me. I want to add a number indicating which waypoint we're actually talking about. So now we're beneath our plane. That's sad. Let's delete it then. Okay. So I want to add a text. So I'm going to call this draw marker text. And for the marker text, we actually need a GUI style. Call this style, and it is a new GUI style. I want to set 3 values. We have the font size, which I set to 15 for now. We have a font style, which I want to set to bold. So this just illustrates how to get to those values if you haven't done that before. And the text color, I want to set it to, let's say, green. So this is the style we're going to use for the little number I want to display. And we cannot use a gizmo on this one. Gizmo is not able to draw text, but something else is called handles, and this one is in the namespace Unity editor. So we're gonna use Unity editor handle. Handles are a bit like gizmos. I cannot really explain the difference, so you just need to look it up yourself. Handles, and we're gonna use a label. So we first need a position. For that, I'm going to use the marker end, since that is pretty good position, I think, for it. The text can be our iteration variable. We just need to format it as a string. And we need to add our style that we created. And there we go. We have our numbers. Now I don't want to start, I don't know. Shall we start with 0? That's quite the nerdy thing to do, or we just do it more. For now we can keep it like that. So then we start with 1. It's a bit nicer, I think. Doesn't always have to start with 0, right? So, yeah, this is already looking quite good, I think. We can, yeah, we now have, for each of our game objects, we have a marker with a number, and we can move them around, and it's always connecting to the next one. So all in all, I think that's a pretty good start. In the next session, what we're going to do is just move away from our cubes a bit. I want to have one object holding the script, adding empty game objects being the markers or the waypoints. That is just nicer than having a cube in your scene. So this will be what we do in the next tutorial. I hope this helped you already get going. Yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.